One of my favorite local sellers held a garage sale, and the full short box next to me tells you it was a really good sale. Check it out. Hey everyone, and welcome to today's video. This haul was such a fun haul to collect. I went to a garage sale that was hosted by one of my favorite local sellers here in the Twin Cities. They're called the Brothers Grin. Now, typically, you can find them at most of the local comic book shows that get held across the Twin Cities, whether that's Spring Con or Fall Con, the Minnesota Comic Exchange shows that happen throughout the year, and a number of other appearances. They also sell online, I believe on Whatnot, and then over the last 2 or 3 years, they've started holding an annual garage sale at their own place. And it is a fantastic time with a ton of comics and amazing deals. Typically, they'll have multiple areas out across the front lawn under like those 10 by 10 tents that you get for camping and things. And they'll have them divided by price. So you'll have dollar book sections, you'll have $2 book sections, 3, 5 different increments all the way up to even having boxes of your typical wall book kind of inventory. But then this year, what made it extra special were some bulk deals that they offered on top of all those other good things. There was, first of all, a section of boxes that were $1 a piece, or you could fill a short box for $60. And then over on the side of the yard, they had an area that was just the craziest deal I've ever seen. These books weren't even individually priced. They were simply like 20, 24 short boxes of comics out there on a big, tarp. And they just said, $15, you can fill a short box. So it was purely a bulk deal. And obviously, there's no big keys or rare books in there to be found, but it's a great way to be able to dive in, fill in some runs that maybe you've been working on, or maybe even try a new series because there's a ton of issues there and they're so cheap. It works out to be like 10 cents a comic. Pretty hard to pass that kind of a deal up. As for me, the books that I brought home were mostly from the dollar section, the bulk dollar section, and then that fill a short box for $15 section. I'm not going to go and tell you the individual price of every comic as we go through that because I have kind of reorganized them by title. And so you're going to see a mixture, but just know that everything here was at most $1 overall with the bulk deals and things. And you divide it out, how many comics I got and how much I paid, it's well below $1 on every one of these issues. And yeah, it was just such a fun time. So with that, I will say first that any information I have or links to Brothers Grin, I'll put that down below in the description in case you want to check them out. And then secondly, hey, let's get to this haul. Okay, I have these divided roughly by kind of character grouping within the Marvel universe. And so we're going to start with some Avengers and Avenger character related issues. So let me pull this stack over here and start off with one actual Avengers book. This is Avengers #1 from volume 3. This is the Heroes Return era. And this issue kicks off the Kurt Busiek and George Perez run on this series that I believe the Busiek run ran up to like issue 56. George Perez, I think, was there for like the first 30 some odd issues doing the pencils. I've never really read anything in this run other than the first 2 or 3 issues that I've read digitally. And I'm kind of leaning towards maybe I'll put this run together, mostly because it's got a really good reputation. It is a fan favorite run. And yeah, if I can find the issues for cheap, I will try that out. But for now, I do have, I think, a standard cover copy of issue #1. This is actually a variant to #1, and I love to pick up those variants, especially at this time when variants were not nearly as prevalent as they are today. Now let's shift in some of the solo titles for these individual characters, starting off with Captain America. Got a handful of issues from his first volume in the Bronze Age, starting here with issue number 165, and then 189. Not trying to get a complete run of this, but I am trying to get most of the things I can find that are from before the Mark Grunwald run, which ran for like 10 years. And I'm not going to collect that one specifically because I am going to go the omnibus route for that and collect that way so I can read it kind of continuously throughout. Now we're going to fast forward a little bit. This looks like is this a John Byrne cover here on issue number 291? And you had some great artists working on Captain America before that Mark Grunwald era in Mike Zeck, John Byrne, and others. Here's 293. 294 with a really cool pink background on there. Here's 296. Is that Bob Budiansky? Yeah, Bob Budiansky. He's famous for me from the Transformers lore that he helped craft and create and hooked me on that franchise forever. Here's 297. I like that cover as well. And now this issue actually is from the Mark Grunwald era. This is number 376. I may have grabbed this because it's a Ron Lim cover and just because I thought it was kind of cool with the different characters. You got Black Widow and Daredevil and others on there. That may be why I grabbed it. It may have been also to help me fill out a box to get one of those bulk deals I talked about. And then I got one annual from Cap Volume 1. Here's annual number 7. This is the annual that's before that really famous Wolverine Captain America cover. Now let's go over to some Iron Man. His titles are ones that I only started reading really in a very modern era. I think I picked up collecting Iron Man after the 2015 Secret Wars event and followed him through the introduction of Riri Williams and continued on for several years with him. Now I kind of pick up his newer things just as back issues when I can find them. And as far as his earlier stuff, I'm not really trying to get a complete volume 1, but I am a sucker for these Bronze Age covers. It's the art, it's the colors, it's the trade dress, all of it. I just love it. And I've been really fortunate a few times now to find several issues below issue number 100 for $1 or less. And now that I think about it, they all may have come from different Brothers Grin sales, but I found more at the garage sale, starting here with issue number 49, 53, 58, 61. I mean, can you believe all these issues were $1 a piece? And probably in the bulk section, 88. And then I did go a little bit above issue 100. There's 107, 108, and 115. I don't have a real firm collecting goal with these. I'm just going to pick up issues that I don't have when I can find them. Again, decent condition, cheap, just super fun to have in my collection. All right, and then we'll go over to some Thor books. Similar to Captain America, there's only certain parts of the run that I've been trying to collect from his volume 1. I have been collecting Thor pretty continuously since the Jason Aaron run when he did the amazing story arcs with Isad Ribic on art. That's what hooked me, and I started collecting the back issues at the time. Thankfully, I got them before they really shot up in price and value. So I was able to put together that run, loved the Jane Foster run on Thor, and I've just kind of continued with Thor since then. Same with the volume 1. I really wanted the Walter Simonson run, which I have completed and I have read. And now I'll just continue to pick up the Bronze Age issues when I can find them. For example, there was an earlier Walter Simonson run that he did in the like issue 260 to 270 kind of range. And you've got a lot of good John Buscema art in here. So mostly an art pickup and then also a character pickup just because I love Thor. I won't ever have a complete run, but still fun to build out as many as I can over time. So here's issue number 219, 284, 293, 306, 328, and then another kind of much later issue that's kind of random. Here's 458. There's no significance to this. I imagine I grabbed this just because of the, maybe because it's kind of a cool cover, but it may be to help me fill a box for that bulk deal. But I don't know that I'm going to complete the latter end of the Thor run. We'll see how that goes over time. All right, now let's go to, we're done with kind of Avengers, formal Avengers books. Now let's shift gears to some sci-fi. This is a 23 issue run that I have been piecing together just because I've been finding the issues for cheap, and I haven't completed it yet, but I'm getting pretty close. It also features a lot of Walter Simonson art throughout this relatively short run, and I did remember liking this show when I saw it in reruns, and that is Battlestar Galactica. Here we have issue number 10. And then there's issue 12, and that is a Walter Simonson cover. I don't remember all the issues he did the art on. Here's another Walter Simonson cover on issue number 13. And I always thought that he does some pretty good spaceships and space scenes, because I know he did some of the art in some of the early Star Wars stuff also. There's issue 14. 15. And lastly, number 18. So a few more issues to go for me to be able to complete this run, but that was really nice progress to have found that at the sale. Now let's actually go over and look at some DC books, starting with The Man of Steel. And I'll let you know, mostly what I collect when it comes to DC is either Superman and related titles or Batman and related titles. Those are the two characters that I did collect actively back when I started collecting in the late 80s, early 90s, and then kind of dropped away from DC altogether and focused mostly on Marvel and then the Transformers books as they were coming out. And now even today, I'm mostly Marvel when it comes to new things, but I still like to pick up some of the era of Superman and Batman from when I first started collecting, issues that I didn't ever pick up, and maybe because it's just a really good story or it's got really good historic comic value. The first couple were great because these were complete limited series that they had all at once. And I love it when you're working on a limited series and you can find all of the issues all in one shot. So you don't have to find like 3 of the 4 and then you're hunting for months to find that last issue. This way you get them all together and it's one and done and you can read them. They are both Superman related and they both come from the John Byrne era of writing and drawing Superman, which kicked off right after the Crisis on Infinite Earths event. So here we have the world of Smallville. There were, I believe, 3 different limited series like this, kind of fleshing out the world of Superman and Clark Kent. And this one clearly focuses on his life in Smallville. There's issue number 1, 2, 3, and 4. And then there was a second limited series, very similar, but this one is the world of Metropolis. And so there's issue 1, 2, 3, and 4. Would have been really cool if they had the third limited series, which is the world of Krypton. But hey, I can't complain with 2 complete limited series right there for less than $1 a piece. I picked up a couple trades or graphic novels. I don't know what you call these. I don't think they were ever printed as issues or single issues. I think these were just square bound one shots. This one is Superman for Earth by Roger Stern, Kerry Gamble, Dennis Janke, and with Tim McCraw. You got that there. It's a wraparound cover. I don't know anything about that story, but they were so cheap, I was going to grab those, and I had never heard of them before. And then this other one is Superman Under a Yellow Sun, a novel by Clark Kent. Another just trade or graphic novel, whatever you want to call that, kind of a one-shot. What's cool about this one is the title page kind of fools you a little bit because it's signed by Clark Kent, as if he did like a book signing or something, but it kind of looks like somebody actually signed it in ink. So that's pretty neat little addition there. This little story is actually also contained in one of the Triangle era omnibus editions, and I am getting the Superman Triangle era in omnibus format as well, because it's one of my goals with the omnibus editions is to build out runs that I liked from when I first started collecting. So same reason I picked up some of these single issues. I also want to get the oversized format of the omnis to have those on my shelf just for the nostalgia of it and to reread these stories. And so they just came out with volume 2, and this one may have the uh that novel, that Clark Kent novel in it. I don't remember. I can't really see right now, but there's volume 2 of that omnibus. It's either in this one or the first volume, but so I kind of have it double dipped that way. All right, sticking with Superman and sticking with really that same kind of era of things. This is going to be now, well, either before or during or after the death and return of Superman, which, as you heard me say before, is kind of referred to as the Triangle era, and just filling in some holes of series that I was just missing these issues. Here's one issue of Action Comics, number 703. And then this was a fun pickup, a little bit beat up on the spine there and a little bit of a rip down on the bottom, but it's a significant issue. This is Adventures of Superman number 424. This actually is the first issue to come out after this really kind of kicks off that next era of storytelling. So that's just a fun book to have, and it's a cool cover too. There was a Christmas issue from that era. This is Adventures of Superman 487. Probably would have picked this up even if I wasn't working on issues from this time, just because I love Christmas covers and Christmas issues. Here's Adventures of Superman, or for this issue, it was called Adventures of Alpha Centurion, issue number 518, I think that said. And then here's Adjectiveless Superman, number 64, another Christmas cover. And then Superman number 93. And then this one I grabbed partly because it's the Triangle era, but probably more so because it's polybagged and it's still intact, and I don't plan on opening it. This is Superman Man of Steel number 30, Lobo Strikes Again. And you can see it's polybagged, but on the back, they've got these vinyl clings as well. If I ever find another copy of this that's opened, I'll probably pick it up just so I can actually see inside of it. But this one, I love to find comics that have been polybagged and they're still sealed in the polybags. Just feels like a little time capsule. So I'm glad I found that. Similarly, another book that was polybagged or is still polybagged. I think this is a one-shot? Question mark. This is Superman Red, Superman Blue, number 1. Or maybe that's just maybe that was the title. I don't even know. I wasn't collecting at this point. But this is a 3D cover, and I'm guessing maybe a 3D issue. You can even see they included the 3D glasses. These are the old school 3D glasses where you had the red and the blue lens. Kind of look like that down there to create the 3D effect. But that's a really fun one to have also. Not going to open it, unfortunately. I deprive myself of seeing the cool art inside. But if I ever find another copy of that for cheap that's opened, then I'll be able to dive in. But that's a fun thing to have. And then last little bit of DC here. I just grabbed some of these previews, kind of. They're not full-on magazines. They're little pamphlets, really. But this is DC Direct Currents September cover date. It's actually issue number 78, so maybe they were doing that monthly for a while. But it just goes through a little previews of what was coming out in that particular month from DC. And I still, to this day, anytime I pick up a previews, a catalog, a kind of a what's coming type of a free thing that you can pick up at a comic shop, I'll grab those just because I feel like they're fun things to have, and there will be little snapshots into the era when they came out of comic book collecting. They also had this one. Yeah, this is the next one. This is the previews for October. And then there was another one. Actually, they did variants of these. Look, there's 2 for October. One's red, one's green. Different covers previewed there. But yeah, those were fun. Would have been free initially, and I'm 99.9% sure these were in that bulk $15 for a short box area. And then one other sampler, this is the DC 0 month sampler. I have never read that event other than maybe an occasional issue here or there, and it's been decades since I read that, so could not tell you anymore at all what that story is about. But they had a bunch of things in the boxes from this 0 0 hours. This is called 0 month, but I just picked up some of those free preview type magazines there around that event. All right, now we're going to come back to Marvel for one last section of books, and you're probably wondering, are we really through all the books that quickly? You talked about a full short box, and you'd be right. I'm not going to try to tackle everything all at once today. I'm going to get about halfway through, and then I'll save the second half of this for a second video. And that's just because, not many people watch the entire video anyway. So why do I want to show all the cool books for a really long video when instead I could split that into two? More people will get to see those cool books. And yeah, then I don't have to make you watch a super extra long video. But the last section of books we're going to cover for today are all Fantastic Four related. This is a team that I have really come to love ever since that Secret Wars event and Jonathan Hickman's time of writing the Avengers, and that hooked me on them. And I went back and collected the entire Jonathan Hickman run on Fantastic Four and really enjoyed that. And then I've just been following them ever since. And of course, that also means I want to go back and collect as much of their back issue catalog as I can. And so I found some Bronze Age issues from Volume 1. Here is issue number 145 with a bad guy in there called Turnak, but boy, he looks like X-Men's the Beast. But, very similar. And then here is issue 147 with Submariner on there. 152. And I love finding these Bronze Age issues for really cheap. It's super fun to pick these up because you don't see them very often in dollar bins or as part of bulk deals like I got them. 178. And then fast forward, because I would like to ultimately have as much of that first volume of Fantastic Four as possible, which includes then getting the later issues. And you can pretty commonly find those for pretty cheap and in good condition. So most of these are, again, in that category where I'm pretty sure I grabbed them because they were going to help me get that bulk pricing. Starting here with issue number 301. So this is just a handful of issues after John Byrne's era ended on this title. There's 311. 314. That's a weird bag too, because it's kind of extra large. I don't know if it's like a Golden Age bag or something, but they've got it folded on the side and the top. Here's 392. And that's it for the actual run issues. I did also pick up an annual. This is annual number 24 from 1991. I do have a nostalgic draw to a lot of these annuals from this time, probably because I saw them all in the stands when they were coming out. And I'm always tempted to pick them up, even if it's a title I don't regularly collect. Got one issue from their third volume. This was after, it was same to that, who was it we were looking at before? Was it Captain America or Thor or one of those guys? Oh, it was the Avengers title we started with, duh. But Heroes Return, Fantastic Four got a reboot as well. And at some point after a while, they did revert to the legacy numbering. So it's kind of the more confusing volume to try to piece together because you have to pay attention to the issue numbers and things like that. But this is from the Wade Wieringo run. This is issue number 511. A lot of great creative teams that worked on that third volume of Fantastic Four. And then we got some Fantastic Four adjacent issues, starting with a Thing focus book. This is Marvel 2-in-1. I don't know if I've said it before, but I have finally kind of fallen into the camp of saying, you know what, I'm going to try to piece together this entire run if I can. It's only 100 issues, and since it is so closely related to the FF, I'm going to go ahead and try to get it. Here's issue number 31 from Marvel 2-in-1. And then a few annuals, actually. Here's annual number 3, number 4, and number 5. And then another adjacent title. This is a reprint series that I've mentioned before that I'm working on. This is the first part of that when it was called Marvel Collector's Item Classics. This is issue number 11. And I always like to point this out. It's one of the things that makes this so cool is this is one of the earlier Silver Age reprint series that reprints even earlier Silver Age stories. And if you think about the fact that there were no comic book shops at this time to be able to go out and pick up back issues of stories you missed. This was the way you could get those things when they did a reprint series, and they could republish issues that maybe you missed out on because you weren't collecting it yet, or you didn't have the money to buy it that month. But this was a great way for primarily kids at the time to be able to get those stories and fill that out. I love picking it up because it's still Jack Kirby art, and it's a really early reprint series. So even though it's a reprint, it's still Silver Age. And then you fast forward, and this got a retitling. It became known as Marvel's Greatest Comics, starring the Fantastic Four, and continued on till like issue 90 something. And eventually I'll try to piece all of that together just because it's fun to have them. I picked up a couple more. Here's issue number 82. And then 83. Looks like I got a few in a row here. And lastly, 84. Don't know that I would have picked up these higher numbered issues at this sale. Likely they were in one of the bulk boxes. And then two more titles, just a few more issues to show you. This first short series only ran 8 issues, and this is a comic based on the cartoon that I admittedly never watched in the 90s. This is from Marvel Action Hour, Fantastic Four. Picked up issue number 6, 7, and number 8. Just a fun thing to grab because it was there and cheap. And then the very last issue to show you for this part of the haul is one last Fantastic Four book. This is from the Marvel Knights era of Fantastic Four, and it was just called Marvel Knights 4, and this is issue number 25. I think this ran like 30 issues or so. Really don't know anything about the storytelling in this, and same as a lot of these other books, was probably in that bulk $15 to fill a short box area, because other than that, I wouldn't have picked it up right now. These I can see frequently enough and for cheap enough that I'd probably like to get them in order as much as possible. But when it's like 10 cents for a comic book, I'm going to pick it up even if it's just a random single issue. But yeah, one more issue towards completing that run. No hurry to do that. Eventually we'll get there. All right. With that, I'm going to say that's going to do it for me. And that's going to do it for part 1 of this haul from the Brothers Grin garage sale. I do hope you saw something that you liked. And if you did, why don't you give the video a thumbs up? And if you want to see more content like this, and maybe even the second half of this haul, hit that subscribe and ring the bell for notifications so you'll know the next time I upload a video. Now, if you're not quite ready for the YouTube fun to stop, I have hand-selected a couple videos here for you to check out. As always, thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next time.